For our last episode of 2025, I wanted to play you our most played episode with over 390 downloads. 4 skills that correct 99% of behaviors with Nicholeen Peck. Do you ever feel like you're constantly fighting behavioral fires? What if you only needed 4 core skills to handle almost every challenging situation with your grandchildren? In this best episode of 2025, we revisit our powerhouse conversation with parenting expert Nicholeen Peck. Nicholeen shares her revolutionary yet simple system that corrects 99% of all behaviors, she says, without shouting, losing your temper, or resorting to punishment. This is the most actionable, game-changing episode we aired all year. If you want to replace exhaust with calm and chaos with consistency, you need these 4 fundamental skills. Welcome to Grandparents Raising Grandchildren, Nurturing Through Adversity. In this podcast, we will delve deep into the challenges and triumphs of grandparents raising grandchildren. As we navigate the complexities of legal, financial, and emotional support, I invite you to join us on a journey of exploring thoughts, feelings, and beliefs surrounding this growing segment of our society. Drawing from real stories and expert advice, we will explore the nuances of child rearing for children who have experienced trauma and offer valuable resources to guide you through the intricate journey of kinship care. We'll discuss how we can change the course of history by rewriting our grandchildren's future, all within a supportive community that understands the unique joys and struggles. This podcast was made especially for you. Welcome to a community where your voice is heard, your experiences are valued, and your journey is honored. I'm back with Nicholeen Peck. We're talking about the Teaching Self-Government program. We're going to be offering a parenting mastery program for grandparents raising grandchildren in the spring. So I would like to ask Nicholeen today about some helpful routines that will give you a little taste of the program for day-to-day parenting for grandparents. Because our grandparents' lives are complicated as it is, coupled with the fact that some of us are already having challenges with our health. We're a little slower than we used to be, and some of us are showing early signs of memory loss. So, Nicholeen, share with us a few simple routines for our day-to-day lives that could help us initiate self-government principles in our families' lives.
Yeah, my pleasure. There are so many things that we could talk about. I'll try to give you as many things as I can in this short podcast. So I think if we group it into 3 categories, that would be good. So number 1 is pre-teaching. This is one of the skills of self-government for parents. There's different skills for the parents or grandparents, and then there's skills for the children, and all of them are actually adult skills. Now, if you're a little later in life, like both of us are, then you like to be a little bit more planned sometimes. I mean, sure, spontaneity is nice, I'm going to just take a nap. But we don't get that anymore when we're raising our grandchildren, right? It's not as common. But usually we have to be a little bit more planned out. We think, okay, I'm going to put my doctor appointments that far out in the future. We get more planned. So why do we plan things out for our future? Because it decreases our anxiety. That's why. Mm-hmm. So when our grandchildren are learning how to change things about themselves, why not help them decrease their anxiety too? So one of the ways that we can help them decrease their anxiety is by making things as predictable as possible for them. If things are predictable, number one, they can't manipulate as much because the structure is more firm. If we have declared ahead of time, this is how we're going to play this out. This will be the positive. This will be the negative. This is the skill you need. This is how we handle it every single time the same. There's just no wiggle room there. There's a lot of security and consistency with that type of a structure. And we all know that data has proven, groundbreaking data years and years ago that children thrive on structure. So we know they need to have a structure. So what can we do? There's 3 different types of pre-teaching. I'm probably just going to go into one of them today. So pre-teaching, there's either prepping, situational pre-teaching, or instructional pre-teaching. I'm going to be focusing on situational pre-teaching. So if with your children, you tell them what's coming before it's going to come, you might think this is annoying and this is more words. And why do I have to say more words? But I want you to know that when you do this, their brain activity goes to the front. Okay, so they start using prefrontal cortex brain. This helps them focus in more on what you're going to say. They start thinking about logical steps instead of thinking about emotions because you give them this slight opportunity to focus on a skill that they already know. And we'll talk about some of those skills in a moment. But the pre-teaching skill, first what you do is you describe what is happening right now or what is going to be coming up. So one of the biggest times that I describe is when I am getting in the car. So like when I'm in the car, if I'm in the car, we're going to a certain place, maybe it's an activity, I pre-teach. We're going home, I pre-teach about what to expect when we get home. I just prepare everybody. That way you have way less bad behavior that you need to deal with. So let's say I'm going to give my child or my grandchild a no answer about eating another piece of candy. Okay, so let's say they're going to ask me for a piece of candy. I already know I want to give them a no answer about it. Now they have the skills for how to accept a no answer. We're going to talk about those in a minute, but I'm going to just prepare them to use those steps to that skill of accepting a no answer. So there are 4 steps to that skill. And they know them. They are to look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject. So let's say my grandchild comes to me and they say, "Grandma, can I have another candy?" Then I'm going to start with a pre-teach. I'm not just going to give them a no answer. I'm going to say, right now I'm going to pre-teach you. So do you remember the steps for accepting a no answer? They might say, well, yeah, you look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then you drop the subject. Then you can praise them. Wow, that was a great job. Just now you told me all of the steps of accepting a no answer. That shows you really understand that skill. So I know you're not going to have any problem with this. So that was describing what's happening. And now I'm praising them. And in that praising, I'm giving them a rationale. Because you know this, you're not going to have any problem going forward. So now we're very positive moving forward. Then I'm going to tell them what happens if they use their skill, what happens if they don't use their skill. So remember, I have that teaching self-government choices map, which helps them know, okay, if I go this way with my choice, then this is what happens. If I go this way with my choice, then this is what happens. So I'm going to say to them, if you choose to accept the no answer that I have for you coming up, then that will save you a lot of time because we won't have to talk about it and you'll get praised for it and you'll feel good because you used your skill. If you choose not to accept the no answer that's coming, then that's okay. We'll just take a little bit of time and we'll talk about it and we'll do a correction for it and you'll get an opportunity to earn a negative consequence. And there's certain negative consequences that I always use that are good for character development. Now you can see the tone in that is really important. When a person learns self-government, there's a certain type of a tone, a certain type of a structure that's the best. And obviously calmness, being positive, hopeful, trusting the child will learn. These are all very good things. So not taking anything personally. Then I'm going to say, now remember, the steps to accepting a no answer are to look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject. Here's your no answer. No, you can't have a candy, okay? Now that's a lot of talking for no, you can't have a candy. And somebody might be saying to themselves, you've gotta be kidding me. I should be able to just say, no, you can't have a candy. Well, yes, you can just say, no, you can't have a candy. And once you have taught your child enough times that when I say no, you need to use your skill of accepting a no answer, then they will just say okay, or they'll disagree appropriately with you. But if I have a hunch that that child could have a hard time with accepting that no answer for the candy, then you better believe I'm going to prepare their brain to have less anxiety. I'm going to teach them ahead of time what's coming and what to expect. And then if I tell them, oh, just now you didn't accept a no answer when I gave you one, and if I have to go into a correction at that point, then they're already expecting it. That's no surprise for them. We already talked about it ahead of time. So planning ahead of time is huge. And like I said, there's 3 different ways to do this. I've just been touching on one way, but just preparing the people ahead of time is going to make your life better. Teaching self-government hinges on the concept of pre-teaching, because if you don't pre-teach, then you are literally just shocking and surprising your children. And sometimes you might have shock them enough that they're afraid that they'll have good behavior for a little bit. But what happens when they just start pushing back against you because they're strong-willed? You end up now in power struggles all the time. You need to have a way to help them succeed before it gets to the moment of correction all the time. And when we're talking about correction, that brings me to number 2. So the second thing that I wanted to share with you is that we need to make sure that we see corrections are not a negative thing. Okay? That's important. Our mindset on corrections. It's important. A lot of people think, well, negative consequence, it means it has to be negative, right? I don't like thinking I'm doing a negative thing to another person. I don't like having to talk about the negative. Okay, well, so then let's just remove the whole idea of negative entirely. If I were at the office, let's go back to being at the office, okay? If I were at the office, I'm working, say, the funeral home where I used to work, and somebody comes up to me, say it's my superior, my boss. They come up to me and say, Nicholeen, I noticed that you were doing some paperwork, and on the paperwork, you are not putting the date. This is going to be a problem because our files will not be complete without the date. I know it seems insignificant, maybe like kind of a waste of time, but we absolutely have to have the date. Otherwise, all of our files can be messed up and legally we could get into trouble. So we need dates. So going forward, you need to do the dates. And you know what? Since you didn't do the dates before you file the folder for the next week, could you just come show us so we look over it to make sure that we're not filing things without the dates? I would say yes. Do you know what just happened right there? A really good correction. If I was immature, I would take that feedback negatively. But because I know how to accept consequences, which, by the way, is another one of the 4 basic skills we teach children. So what are we learning here? That those 4 basic skills are not just for children. They are adult skills, okay? If I can take correction from a boss, why can't I take correction from a spouse? And why shouldn't our children learn that correction is okay? It's productive. It can even be positive. So I tell people all the time, you should feel closer to your children during and after a correction than you even did before. If you do not feel close to your children during a correction or to your grandchildren during a correction, then that's probably your own mindset that is to blame. Because you have decided that this is not a positive moment for you. Instead, if you decide this is great, this is me being grandma teaching my grandchildren, then what's the big deal? Then have the moment, teach them, live in your space, because that is your space when you're being the grandma doing that teaching. And we need to have confidence in that. And one of the things that we need to do when we do good teaching there is don't react emotionally. Don't take their misbehavior personally. That is so important. And the way that we phrase our corrections should hopefully show that we're not taking the reaction personally. And there's a way that I can teach you how to do that. So number 2, let's make sure that corrections aren't framed as negative. If you don't think they're negative, and if you've told the children, hey, this is no big deal. And if you heard me when I talked before in the pre-teach, I said, then no big deal. We'll just do a correction. Who am I telling it's no big deal? Them, but I'm also telling who? Me. Then no big deal. We'll just do a correction. Tell yourself, pre-teach yourself, then it will be no big deal for me to do a correction. Okay, so number 2, no big deal. Tell yourself, no big deal. This is a child. They all learn and grow. You learned and grew. Your children learned and grew. The neighbor's children, everybody learns and grows. You can't stop it if you want to.
I recently received an email from a listener named Laurel. At 61, Laurel and her husband, who's navigating his own health challenges, are now raising their grandson after a series of unimaginable losses. In 2022, they lost their son to a fentanyl overdose. Then just a year ago, they lost their daughter the same way. The morning after, they'd stayed up late together planning her son's 3rd birthday party. Laurel told me that she lives one day at a time. She's dealing with the financial strain of using her 401k to survive, the physical toll of caregiving, and the emotional weight of what ifs. But she also said something that I want everyone listening to hear. She said that just telling her story to people who can relate is refreshing. That's exactly why we do this. Whether you're navigating addiction in your family, raising a grandchild you didn't expect to be raising, or just trying to find your footing after a loss, we need to hear your story. There's always someone else out there who needs to hear that they aren't the only one. Your experience is a lifeline for someone else. So if you have a story to share, or if you're looking for that community Laurel found, please join our Facebook group or sign up for our newsletter on our website at grandparents-raising-grandchildren.org. Let's keep relating, and let's make sure no one walks this path in silence. Thank you, Laurel, for your courage to share your story with others.
So then just trust in the process. That brings me to number 3, which is skill development. We need skills, not emotions. Okay? Skills, not emotions. So there are 4 basic skills that I teach grandparents and parents how to teach their grandchildren and children. Those 4 basic skills, if a person learns those 4 basic skills and the skill sets associated with those 4 basic skills, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. That is a lot. When people ask me, well, what about this? I look at the skills and say, well, your child's probably not dropping the subject. Yeah, but what about this? Well, they're probably not keeping a calm face, voice, and body. Nope. Oh, they're not disagreeing appropriately. I can pinpoint from those steps to those skills what they need. So let's talk about those. There are 4 basic skills. They are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, because when you hear criticism, it kind of sounds like no to you, right? And so it's the same skill. And then accepting consequences. A person cannot learn self-government if they are not given the opportunity to accept consequences. One of the biggest parenting mistakes that is made today is that parents are afraid of consequences. They are afraid of teaching their children cause and effect. And we are now getting a generation of wildness because of it. Because they have a negative association with consequences. Why? When I made the cookies and everyone cheered, that was a positive consequence. Why would I be afraid of that? Consequences are just consequences. It's just feedback. It's just data that we can use to self-assess and make better plans for ourselves going forward. That's self-government. So accepting consequences is huge. If we don't give them the opportunity to accept their consequences, they can't learn self-government. And then everything that ever happens to them will be your fault. and not their fault. And so then they don't get the opportunity. They'll just be in a blame game for their life, which some people never grow out of. So then number 4 is disagreeing appropriately. This is the skill that they use to explain their point of view to you. They do it in a way that's appropriate, still honoring your roles, which, boy, we could talk about roles for a whole hour, but they are able to say, okay, I honor who you are, but I need to talk to you about something. They know how and when to do this. They know how to seek to understand other people's point of view. And they know how to share their point of view in a helpful way. And all of these skills have steps associated with them. I already talked about accepting no answers. And so when you accept no answers, there's those 4 steps. When you follow instructions, there's 5 steps. When you accept consequences, there's 6 steps. When you disagree appropriately, there's 7 steps. I think we don't have time to go into all the nitty-gritties of all the steps of all these, but I think I would like to just do disagreeing appropriately. Because disagreeing appropriately is really, I would say, the gateway skill to self-government. If your grandchildren learn that if they just talk to you calmly about something, that's better than having a tantrum and whining or having an attitude problem and pushing back, then everything changes. And by the way, my foster children were all between the ages of 12 and 18. So I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. So these skills are not just for baby grandchildren. These are for all ages. And then I raised my children from teeny tiny all the way up. My grandbaby, my grandchild, Clara, she's 2.5. By the time she was 6 months old, she could self-regulate by taking deep breaths. By the time she was 14 months old, she could disagree appropriately and calm herself, again, by taking deep breaths when prompted. She is now 2.5. She knows all of the skills, those 4 basic skills, and all of their steps to all of them.
That's amazing.
And she can tell you that person is not calm. That person needs to be calm. So she can do all of those things. And she is 2.5 years old. So they are for all ages, just so you know. So here's the steps to disagreeing appropriately. You look at the person. This is significant because we need to honor the roles. We need to establish connection when we're communicating with each other. So no more yelling at the bottom of the stairs, at the top of the stairs, or wherever you are on the stairs. I know it's not fun with the knees to go down the stairs. I get it. But we need to call them to come to us, have them look at us in our eyes when we're giving them instruction. Okay, so you look at the person, they have to look at you. Step number 2, keep a calm face, voice, and body. They need to know what that means. We probably are going to have to deliberately teach it. Step number 3, after they've asked, may I disagree appropriately, which we want to teach them to do so that we remember to listen and understand them, then what they do is they say that they understand your point of view. They say, I understand that you don't want me to go out and play right now because it's getting late at night and it's starting to be dark. So they actually say that they understand where you're coming from. If you already gave a no answer about going out to play because it was going to be dark, they can tell you that they got the message. That decreases your anxiety, which is nice. And it decreases theirs too. Then the next step, step number 4, is they explain their point of view. But I told Johnny that I would go outside and he's been waiting for me and I don't want him to wait in the dark. And so I thought it would be good if I could maybe play for another 5 more minutes. Would it be okay if I played for another 5 more minutes? Then they listen to what you have to say. So that is step number 5. Listen to what you have to say. You either say okay or you say no. And then they say okay. So that's step number 6. And then they drop the subject, which means they don't ruminate on it. They don't think about it anymore. They don't talk about it anymore. They don't go talk to grandpa about it and hope to get a different answer. No, they just drop the subject. Learning that skill alone can decrease even more anxiety in your household, can make it so that people feel understood, but you can still be consistent and have those lines and those boundaries that you need to so that they're honoring your parental authority. So when you're the grandparent raising the grandchildren, you have to maintain parental authority just like the parents would.
Well, those are 3 great steps that I know that we can all put into action tomorrow. I'm going to run through those real quickly. We're talking about the 3 steps of pre-teaching, providing expectations, to getting comfortable with corrections, not being a big deal, I love that one. 3, skill development, not being emotional about skill development and all the steps that are involved with that. I think those are a great way for people to be introduced to the Teaching Self-Government program. Well, that's the end of this episode, and I can't wait to get into the next episode with you, Nicholeen. This has been wonderful, and I really appreciate your time and all the great information that you're sharing with grandparents. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That was a great episode recorded with Nicholeen Peck. I want to hear from you. Which of the 4 skills makes the biggest difference in your home? After listening to this episode, think about the one skill that resonated with you most. Was it the skill of following instructions or perhaps accepting consequences? Reach out and tell us, what is the single most challenging behavior that you struggle with right now? And how do you plan to use one of Nicholeen's 4 skills to address it this week? Share your plan on social media using hashtag 4skillsforcalm. Your actionable steps this week is simple but powerful. Identify the top 2 most challenging behaviors your grandchild exhibits, and then choose one of Nicholeen's 4 skills to focus on teaching consistently this week. Don't try to fix everything at once, folks. Focus only on teaching that one skill 3 times a day. Get focused, get consistent, and watch the behavior shift. I know it has worked for me when I'm practicing it. We all are imperfect, and especially this time of the year, we have a lot of other things on our minds, but let's just slow down this week and practice one skill 3 times a day. Okay, maybe 1 time, maybe 2. Get focused, get consistent, and watch the behavior shift. For a refresher on all 4 skills, make sure you listen to the full episode again. I promise you, it takes a while for this stuff to sink in. What an incredible year and a half this has been. In 2025, we celebrated a massive milestone, over 10,000 downloads and a community of over 3,000 people spanning more than 8 major countries. We're helping other grandparents and being a resource for those that are raising their grandchildren like I am. And that's all I ever wanted this show to be. When I was learning all of this almost 4 years ago, I thought, I don't want to let my pain go to waste. There must be, with 2.6 million people, over 2.6 million people in the United States raising their grandchildren, somebody else needs to hear what I just learned today. And I hope that's what I'll continue to do in the year ahead. As we kick off in January, I'm going to share with you the rest of the top 5 podcasts of 2025, starting next week with one of our most reflective and important conversations with one of my favorite theologians, Brian McLaren. In our conversation, in his next to the last new book, Life After Doom. If you've ever worried about the big challenges facing our world, climate, political stress, economic uncertainty, and wondered how to talk with your grandchildren about them without instilling fear, then you should listen to the next podcast. Brian provides a powerful, compassionate framework for navigating anxiety, finding purpose, and maintaining hope in uncertain times. And I really do hope you read his book. It was a beautiful but difficult book to read, although it opened up a great number of conversations for my family. Don't miss this crucial conversation next week, Life After Doom, a powerful lesson in resilience for your family. Thank you for tuning in to Grandparents Raising Grandchildren, Nurturing Through Adversity. Remember, you are not alone. Together we can find strength and hope in the face of adversity. Peace be with you. And I pray that you find some time this week to listen to your inner wisdom amongst the noise and the pandemonium of this world.